Dan B is our expert that Dan H is interviewing. But it's not just any kind of interview, it's a backwards interview. So they're going to start at the end of the interview, like thank you for coming here today, and then go to the beginning. So, Dan would, he would, that's okay. So Dan B is our expert. So he might answer a question, like say, definitely the color brown. And then Dan H, you'll hear him next say something like, what is your favorite color? So he'll come up with a question that Dan B has said an answer for already. All right, now they don't know this, but Dan B is our expert, and he is an expert belly dancer. And Dan H is interviewing this expert belly dancer. Let's hear this backwards interview.
It's been wonderful having you here. I mean, usually it's women that do this, but it's great to have a guy do it. Let's give him a round of applause.
Well, I guess I would just conclude by saying there should be equal opportunity for both men and women.
When you think about cooking and cleaning and getting the crud out of your toenails, do you think that all the people that do that should be only women, or should you allow some men to do that as well?
You have to go to the right and then go to the left and then shake it all around.
When you first married Janet and you were up on the stage and you said you may now kiss the bride, what did that look like?
Careful.
It's hard because you gotta really keep a six-pack.
When you first described me and my physique, how did you describe that? Especially, the chest and stomach area.
When I'm belly dancing, I just realized how totally irresistible I am.
You're a financial advisor, correct? So, when you're in front of your, let's say, elderly clients, what's the one thing that you do that you really kind of probably shouldn't?
All I know is that when my mentor, who was a sumo wrestler, who got me started in this, he said, Dan, it takes a lot of guts.
Can I ask you something personal? When you and Freddie, the sumo wrestler, were making sausage, what was the hardest part?
I guess it was because I always saw my mother do it.
In your book, you mentioned how...
Please buy it, by the way, $29.95.
In your book, you mentioned how your dad had always been asking you to clean out his earwax. And you really didn't know how. Can you explain, though, how you learned to clean out your dad's earwax?
Well, as we're kind of getting into the subject, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words.
One of the disabilities you have is when you're answering questions, you do show your belly a lot. Does that really ever come into play, or would it happen in this interview?
Well, it's very important to really gaze at the navel.
What is it that got you kicked out of the nudist